Welcome to Be a Blessing with Mitch and Wendy, a no-holds-barred guide to being the best you can be so that you can be a blessing to your family, friends, and everyone you meet. Be a Blessing is about life, from parenting to building a business and building yourself. Mitch and Wendy will cover it all. So buckle up and prepare to get uncomfortable, because growth only comes from the other side of a challenge.
Good morning. Good morning. This is a different change for us. We coming to you in the morning hours. We usually filming this in the afternoons, probably after about 10, 12 hours of just emptying our cups out for people, just peopled out all day and giving you the little bit of energy we had left. So we kind of reconvened, got some new hours, and we're coffeeed up, pre-workout up, and giving you the best version of ourselves. So,
or the worst. It could be. It could maybe not work out how we're thinking, but we just wanted to try something different to see if maybe we had a little bit more energy and our brains function a little bit better. We're morning people. You've heard us talk about the fact that we're up usually before, we're up at around 3:30, 3:15 in the morning. So we operate really well in the morning times, and so. Producer Frank's kind of the opposite. He's a night owl, so we want to say thank you, Frank, for being flexible and for getting up probably earlier than normal to be here and shoot this podcast.
But I could tell that I was drained in the afternoons, because I would would watch myself on these podcasts, and when you were talking, I just had the best RBF.
Oh, baby, you always look that way.
It makes me have it kind of saves me from some unwanted conversations.
So beautiful.
I know.
When I was younger, this is not scripted here, but when I was younger, people and they still tell me this, I always look tired. I have the natural gift of looking tired constantly. I don't know what it is. Thank you, Jesus, for blessing me with that. So.
And I don't know what it is about, maybe I look like this on a normal basis, but when I see myself on camera, I'm like, look at those beautiful bags. Looks like I've been crying for 30 minutes before we filmed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Love it.
Crying still, carrying over from yesterday, last week's podcast. She's still crying about being married to me for all these years.
Okay. So anyways, I wanna just disclose something that happened yesterday, and then we'll get on topic. Yesterday, I sent Mitch a screenshot of something I found on Facebook, and I thought it was hilarious, and it was obviously fake, but the caption I put to him was, "Tonight we storm Harry Potter's castle." And then about 5 minutes later, I hear ting ting, and I check my text, and he was like, "You realize this is a fake site. It's satire, right?" And I just looked at my phone, and I was like, so I just responded, okay, with just,
It's Babylon Bee. Some of you may know Babylon Bee. They're a satire publication, and I can't count how many times I've seen people repost Babylon Bee in fury.
As if it were true.
As if it was real, and I'm like, bless your little heart. And I had a moment of, when Wendy sent that to me, I was like, oh. Just for clarity, this is satire. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
So I just responded in text. I said, like that time my sarcasm was so advanced, I appeared stupid. Anyways, moving on.
Speaking of how we look, though, I want to point out real quick before we get on topic.
That Wendy, he dressed like me this morning.
Wendy dressed us today.
He saw what I was wearing, went into the closet, and picked out his clothes.
That's lies.
So did Frank.
Lying Frank's.
He sent a group text, said, "What y'all wearing?"
Lies from the pits of hell. Wendy picked my clothes out knowing damn well she'd be in black. We're like Johnny Cash and Carter. What's her name? June Carter, man. Oh.
Okay, anyways, one thing I want to point out to this is, if you see Mitch holding his phone, guys, he's not looking for text. He's not trying to read his email while we're doing this podcast. It's on a timer. Because we know at minute 21, just like if you're sitting in a college lecture, a conference, or church, at minute 21, your mind wanders and you're making your Walmart list in your mind. So we're just trying to stay on task.
And sometimes my phone closes out and I have to type the code in. But I took the code out today so I could just swipe up. Not swipe left, baby. Swipe up.
Good. Okay, let's get on task. So let's go straight for the jugular. Today we're talking about anxiety. Anxiety is another pandemic that is plaguing the human race.
Yeah.
Anxiety, worry, concern. So, Mitch, just tell me your definition of anxiety.
I don't know that I have a definition. I've struggled with anxiety for many, many years. You've witnessed it, you've seen it. Years ago, when I was probably about 17, 18, 19, in that range, I started having, at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I started having panic attacks. And never felt stressed, didn't know how my body was responding to stress, but obviously there was stress and anxiety and my body, in my life, and my body was responding through panic attacks. And look, it was an interesting time. Like I said, I was still fairly young. We were living in Pine Prairie at the time, or I think we were. I was still living in the Pine Prairie area. It was kind of around that transitional period in our life. And so I went to the doctors, did some CAT scans, did stress tests, did all these things, even had to wear a Holter monitor.
For the EEGs.
You're gonna appreciate this. I had to wear this Holter monitor for like 2 or 3 days. It was a 48-hour window so they could monitor my brain activity. And so we go to a basketball game and a fight broke out. I'm like 18 or 19 years old. I got wires coming out of my head with the little man purse with the battery pack. And a fight broke out, and literally, as the fight's breaking out, all my buddies or it's wild, it's outside, and you could hear the opponents yell out, "Don't hit the guy with the wires coming out of his head."
No, they actually said, "Don't hit the guy with the purse. He's fragile."
Easy.
I'm sorry.
Lord. That just peaked right there.
Sorry about that, everybody,
anyway,
if you're listening to this.
So I've struggled with stress and anxiety for many years, learned through the years on how to cope with it within my own life. But I agree with you in that I think way more people struggle with it than probably is known. I've met some people in my life who I've looked up to who are business people, and they confided in me like, man, something is wrong with me. And they would tell me their symptoms of what they were experiencing. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now what's wrong is you have anxiety and you're having panic attacks, and it's scary as hell. And these were people that I thought had it all together, didn't, just were very successful individuals. And I really, really, really believe that there is a lot of people out there that struggle with anxiety and maybe don't even realize it or don't want to talk about it.
It is, because it's a shot to your ego whenever you feel a loss of control. There is a situation that's surrounding me. I don't have any control over it. I don't know how to handle it. And it creates this almost volcanic activity. You keep compressing down the feelings that you're having. And I'm speaking for me, it comes out in volcanic activity, almost in fits of rage.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before.
But you think that if you're so overwhelmed, I'm a full-time I'm speaking for me, full-time working mom and a wife who has 2 kids in sports. So there's some days we leave the house at 7:10 in the morning. We don't return till like last night, till 10 o'clock at night, Dixie baseball. And then you're thinking, I've got all the clothes that needs to be washed and folded. There's still dishes in the sink. I gave my kids a supper, and this loss of control, and it comes out almost in anger of.
Yeah,
you get it?
It's a reaction to the loss of control. It's a reaction to feeling overwhelmed. I think the overwhelming feeling is for Wendy.
It's crushing.
It's
crushing.
And for a lot of us, there's times where I feel overwhelmed, and it's like it shuts you down. Like you go from being productive. Like when I feel overwhelmed, my productivity level just starts to crash.
It does, because
I feel paralyzed.
Suffer from analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So much to be done and so many to-dos, and everybody is needing you 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You start shutting down.
Yeah, getting angry, and your brain doesn't function as well. You're not able to categorize or prioritize things. So,
but I don't think that people around you can recognize what's happening. They think, well, she's in a bad mood.
Yeah. So and going back to my story, I've struggled and still struggle with anxiety and Lord, thankfully, have learned how to manage and cope with the stress. And even like, I don't have panic attacks on a regular basis or nothing along that. But there's times where I feel those things rising up within me, and learning how to deal with those scenarios and identify them has been helpful for me. So even if like I'm a very introverted person, And most people don't realize that about me. And so naturally, I'm just to myself. I have to force myself to be outgoing and talk. It takes energy for me to do that. But if I walk into like this still triggers me and triggered me very often back then. If I walked into like a Walmart or a very crowded place with lots of noise and busyness and people, I would just, and I had a shopping list or something, it would just, I could immediately feel the rush of whatever those things were of loss, like my fuzziness in my brain, kind of feeling dizzy, my heart pounding in my throat. And I would just literally have to start talking to myself and like controlling my breathing and start pointing out things that were simple. This shelf is white. This product is a red color. And I would start saying these things and kind of managing those symptoms. And eventually my reaction would lessen and I'd be able to function. But early on, before I knew what was happening, my heart pounding in my throat, my head feeling fuzzy, man, that was scary.
Yeah, it's really scary. What would you say, and I know the answer, and what would you say for yourself and for the majority of our audience listening is the number one trigger of anxiety?
I would say the number one trigger for anxiety is probably not having things in order. I don't know how else to present it other than to say, like, just their life is in chaos. There's no sense of order. I feel like you're wanting me to. I'm not answering correctly. So go ahead and give me the answer.
No, I was going to say, okay, and I think that's a symptom of something. Everybody that I talk to, a general consensus, I would say, what is the number one thing that stresses you out? What's the number one thing that keeps you up at night, keeps you from finding peace or whatever it is? 95% of people will say money.
Money, yeah.
Money.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I think money is a huge stressor and causes a lot of us anxiety. I mean, it's done it in our own life, and we're working through that process of being more financially responsible.
So that's kind of where I was trying to guide this, is because we know that this is such a broad thing for y'all. So what is a way to combat anxiety related to financial concerns? What would you say was the number one thing that you've done to try to get past that or through it or bust through the ceiling of what you've experienced?
I think for us, the number one thing is learning to live within our means. Get out of debt and learn to live within your means. That's why we live in a culture right now, and have been for years, where they're constantly marketing and feeding within the brains of humans is go into debt, go into debt, go into debt to get further. And debt, not all debt is bad. Not all debt is bad, but we've adopted that to just a lifestyle to where we're buried. And you remember the commercial years ago, there was the guy driving
the lawnmower?
And he's like, I got a brand new house, 2-story home, and I got 2 beautiful kids and some brand new vehicles.
Pool in the back.
Got a pool in the back, but I'm buried up to my eyeballs in debt. And you could just see the anxiety as he riddled him as he's just driving the little lawnmower. And I think that,
golden.
And by the way, I say lawnmower, not lawnmower. You just heard my old country Southern accent right there. But I think that commercial depicted probably 90% of us Americans, like, just are buried in debt. We were buried in debt, living outside our means. And we've learned slowly, I guess we're slow learners, started trying to make decisions to live within our means, to start getting out of debt. And I've seen in our own life the stress of finances as we've made progress in those areas, as we've reduced our debt, as we've made decisions to live within our means. The stress level of an anxiety levels of money have really reduced. And guess what else is reduced? Because of that, it doesn't cause marital issues, which is the number one marital issue probably is related to communication and money. So there's a lot that can be said about how important it is to get out of debt and to live within your means. That is a powerful way, but you have to have a plan. It goes back to goal setting. Goals, have an action plan and execute it every day.
Most of our topics we are really just skimming the surface of most of it because we're condensing so much material down to 20 minutes to keep your attention. Like, we can't even delve deep into this, but would you say the majority of what causes us anxiety and stress happens to you or because of you?
It happens because of us. And I think there's a level of accountability we all have to accept. One of the statements that Wendy and I live by is everything happens because of me. And now don't take that to mean we're disregarding God or like, obviously we are people of faith. We pray very fervently, but just the accountability level of that statement, everything happens because of me. When you live your life that way, it causes you to think differently. It causes you to put things in place to help solve problems maybe before they even happen. So yes, most of the things that happen, like we can play the victim card and poor me, but listen, that's not going to get you anywhere. I could have played the victim card my whole life.
That's a recipe for losing.
But listen, here's what you got to do. You got to take ownership of this stuff and make a decision. Yes, some things are out of our control, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on what I can control. And the things that I can control is how I spend my money,
your attitude and your effort.
My attitude and my effort, definitely, but in terms of finance, how I spend my money, how I'm going to make a plan to get out of debt and not continue to live a life of furthering myself more into debt. So it's just about getting that plan, action plan together to hit your goal and executing every day. And it's little things like, I'm not going to eat out because if I guarantee you, if we all just summed up the money we spend in a month,
if you took an audit of your bank account, you would be sick.
But I don't want this to be we can do a whole different piece on finances. But that's a huge thing that causes stress. So you're right, it's money. I'm thinking back to when I opened up this agency last year. The anxiety and stress level was probably the highest in my life. Because it was a new venture. Literally,
you were starting out at day one, $0.
There was no money coming in, so everything that we financially generated was on new business. So we had to do lots of activity to make sure we could pay the bills, and so there's a lot of stress. And I remember you and then obviously with the pandemic and COVID hitting, that's a whole new thing that we've never experienced in our lifetime. So the stress levels were out of just out of the world for me. But I remember I learned some things during that process of how to manage that stress in a very palatable way. And it was this: have a routine and stick to that routine. Have a routine that makes you productive and stick to that routine and do not venture away from it.
The number one thing too, I would add to this is something we've learned from Grant Cardone. Is the number one way to combat anxiety, stress, worry, or inactivity is massive action.
Massive action. And that's what it was for me last year. I remember we were talking one day, and I don't know if you've ever watched the video of a wood duck, of a baby wood duck trying to take flight. But essentially, if you go to YouTube and you just type in the search bar, baby wood duck taking flight, and it's essentially, they have these little boxes that they build, the wood duck homes, and the little baby bird kind of pops his head out and it jumps out. And it's not going to fly, but it tries so hard and it just falls to the ground. And I'm not sure if the mom brings it back up to the little nest or what happens from there. But every day last year, it felt like every day I was the baby wood duck peeking my head out, and it's jump and go for it. And the things that allowed me to get through that without being overwhelmed, without being crippled with anxiety, is every day. These are just my routines. I would get up and I would make the bed. I would work out. I would come to my office and I would follow the action plan that would lead me to success. Every day I would do these things because if I didn't venture away from this routine is going to cause success. And if I continue to do this, I know that everything's going to be okay. I had faith in the process that leads to good results. Faith in the process that leads to good results. I was thinking about this the other day. I was making the bed, thinking about an athlete who's training. An athlete who trains can get overwhelmed with the anxiety of trying to win this event. But if he sticks to the plan and the process of training that the coach has laid out before him, and he does it with his best effort day in and day out, when he gets to the event, he's going to perform well because he's prepared.
We only got a few minutes left of this. What would, in your opinion, what would you say that we suffer more from? Anxiety or fear?
That's a difficult question.
Or are they synonymous?
I think probably anxiety. I don't know. I don't know if fear is an ever-present thing in people's minds as much as anxiety is. I think fear can cause anxiety, but I think and maybe you're right. Maybe they coincide and they work together. But I really believe that we have the anxiety in our lives, and it could come from past trauma, things that you experienced as a little person that you neurologically or psychologically, it's causing you problems now, and you need to work through that. Like that's some heavy stuff that you need to work through. Some of that was for me. I had to work through some things to help me psychologically move beyond the trauma that I experienced as a young person. So maybe part of that's fear of failing, fear of not being able to pay bills. Fear can definitely coincide with the stress levels and what anxiety does to us. But I think we feel it as anxiety more than we feel it as fear.
I think it wears many hats.
Yeah.
It hides in different adjectives, and it manifests itself in different ways, especially physically.
Yeah.
You know, I truly believe that. I have no science to back this up. You know, I've been in healthcare for a while, and the symptoms that people have, the idiopathic causes of it. I would just say, I think that once this person really got to the root of their emotions and what they're dealing with, some of these physical symptoms might go away or disappear.
Yeah, and we're out of time now. So here's what I would leave you with: you can I'm a living proof that you can have detrimental anxiety and stress in your life, and you can overcome it. But it's not going to happen just magically. Okay, and I'm not against praying. I'm a man of faith, and I believe you should pray. But God, I don't know that God's up there just going to snap His fingers and the anxiety is magically going to disappear. I know for me, it didn't happen that way. It was a combination of prayer and a combination of me working through some difficult things in my life, like I talked about in terms of things that caused pain as a young person that I was carrying over into my new life, and then also bad habits that I had formed and learning to correct those things. Like, you have to put a plan together, pray like it depends on God, and then work through that process like it depends on you, and you can overcome the anxiety and stress levels. But put that plan together and execute it every day with massive action. Massive action. Attack your day, be productive, and don't sit there and just be paralyzed with the anxiety and stress of whatever it's called. And it could be, like you said, folding the clothes and cooking dinner. Put a plan together on how you can be prepared for that day so that you can execute these activities throughout your day without it overwhelming you and ruining your day. Because we used to see that in our lives. Just something as simple as just house chores could just weigh heavy on you. But it extends far beyond that. Business owners, the stress of running a business and managing employees, if you're in management, all these different aspects, man, put plans together, execute, trust the process, execute it every day, and I promise you and pray, you will see your anxiety levels begin to lessen. And primarily when it comes to finance, get out of debt and live within your means. And my goodness, what a difference that'll make. And tithe. We won't go too much further in here, but that's something else that's been really important.
A special guest that we'll have on.
So at some point. But hey, thanks for tuning in. I hope that this has been somewhat helpful. I hope that it's been a blessing. I've struggled with anxiety, and I just spit a little bit there. I apologize. Wendy struggled with anxiety and stress.
Still struggle with anxiety.
We fight through it every day. For us, it's never gone away. And I want to give you hope that I promise you, if you put a plan together, if you work hard, you can overcome this anxiety that you're facing in your life right now.
You've survived 100% of the hardest days of your life.
You've already gone through it. Now let's get on a path to healing and getting to a place to overcoming that and managing it better. So thanks for checking us out. My name is Mitch. This is Wendy. You can check us out at mitchandwendy.com. We're going to continue to build that site out. By the time this airs, we will have a Facebook page put together. So please give us a like. If you like this podcast, if it's been helpful to you, please share it. Share it with your friends.
And subscribe to our YouTube page.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And here's what I think would be fun. If you're somebody still listening, we liked having some conversation at the beginning of this. Shoot us a question, and we may start doing some questions of the day as part of this. And no one may send any questions in, and we'll fake it like somebody did.
Yeah,
and
we'll be like, I received a text.
Yeah, you'll never know any different. But you can shoot us a question on, you can go to the website. mitchandwendy@gmail.com is an email address that you could send one to.
I mean, this thing is like taking off.
Yeah,
like
baby.
You're spitting out stuff that I was like, oh, we have that?
Big time, girl. Hey, but thanks for tuning in. One thing you can leave our viewers with of value before we go.
You're not alone. Everybody struggles with something. It just takes somebody of courage to be real and confess what they're struggling with, to know that, you know what, you can work through this too if somebody else has gone through it. This you can overcome.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback on what Wendy said. You don't have to do this alone. Find somebody you trust, talk to them about it, and don't be a victim, okay? Don't play the victim card. Play the card of, hey, I'm going to take ownership of this, and I'm going to overcome it. So thanks for tuning in. My name's Mitch. This is Wendy, and we hope that you have a great week and that this has been a blessing.